get going then. And do you have the old minutes?
That's a really good. No, I don't.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. We should have printed those.
Let's see, am I live here? Yes. All right, we'll get started here in just 1 minute. So we have 6 total commissioners at this point, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, I do have the sign-in sheet too.
Okay, cool.
So,
Okay, well, you got everything ready to go that you're ready to do?
yes.
Okie doke. Here, this is just like a check-in thing. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. We'll call the order, and we'll start with a roll call. Let's see, I don't think, you said Sheila is maybe on her way?
Not with us at this time.
Okay, Mark Winkler?
Here.
Sandy Hamilton?
Here.
Mike Hurwitz?
Here.
Tom Osborne?
Here.
And then, of course, I am here as well. Okay, let's start with new business. And first, we do have a new commissioner with us, Tom Osborne. So, Tom, welcome to the club.
Thank you.
And I thought actually, we've actually got somewhat of a new commission anyway, a little bit of transition this year. So I thought maybe let's just go around real quick, say our name, where we're from, and at least so we all know each other and what we do for a living. I guess I'll start. Mark Vance, work for Carrollton Bank and have been on the commission for I don't know how long, maybe 5 or 6 years.
Michael Hurwitz with Hurwitz Enterprises and 2 weeks.
All right, perfect.
Tom Osborne, Director of Business Services, Springfield Public Schools.
Mark Winkler with the Building Trades Council here in Springfield.
Sandy Hamilton, Remax Professionals. This is my 3rd year on the committee.
All right, thanks, guys. Okay, so I guess the first item of business
Hey,
is...
Mark,
Yes.
can we go back to the minutes?
Oh,
the last
yes. Should have approved those.
Just that there was just one change, not a big deal, but on page 3, I believe it is, it says the motion was seconded by Mark Hurwitz, and it should be Michael.
Got it. Thank you. Noted.
Perfect. Speaking of which, Sandy, thank you for reminding me. I don't know if everybody saw the minutes in your package, but any other comments? And if not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Okay. So on to the Community Assessment Project 1908.
Yes, we have Dominic Watson representing that project. Just wanted to apologize at this time to the commission. Weren't able to organize all the documents, but we will be presenting those once those are compiled and received by our office.
Okay. And is Donald going to present here today?
Yes, Dominic's
okay.
here.
Excellent. Go ahead, Donald. You've got the floor.
Robbie, can I give this to you, this architect
Sure.
rendering?
Sure, we can pass that around for viewing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Watson, and I'm representing the Springfield project. I took over leadership of the Springfield project actually a few months ago. Many of you have known me for my role as CEO and president of the Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce. So a few months ago, previous leadership of the Springfield project decided that essentially, they were ready to fully retire. And so we had a unique opportunity to merge leadership with the Springfield project and to really give the Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce a community development strong arm to continue the commitment that we have for the community. So again, Dominic Watson, Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce, and TSP. And although many of you are probably familiar with TSP's mission, I want to restate it. The mission of TSP, the Springfield Project, is to unite Springfield, Illinois, as a community by improving the quality of life for all through systematic changes and development activities that empower low-income and minority citizens. So a few things that I would like to highlight, a few community impact items that we've committed to over the last 10 or more years. We've been around since 1996. Again, one leader essentially up until 2 months ago. And so we've committed to summer youth employment programming. We've committed to economic development, specifically on the east side of town and downtown. We were a part of the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce redevelopment project out of the 5th Street site. We were one of 3 developers on that project. We're also, in the past, we have presented on the Neighborhood of Hope project, which is a comprehensive redevelopment project for the Southtown neighborhood, sitting in the heart of the East Side community. And so countless other community projects that we've emphasized and been at the forefront of over the past 20 plus years. And so we are here to talk about two unique projects that are specific to what many would call the Southtown neighborhood and Southtown business district. I'll start with one of which is probably the most significant of the project as it relates to the history of that community. The Taylor home, the John Taylor home, some would say is the most historic, one of 3 of the most historic Black historical monuments that's located here in Springfield. Originally, it was titled as the Tuskegee Institute of the Midwest. That was the goal. And uniquely, it housed as well as educated some of our Black residents when there was no other alternatives for Black residents to really benefit from the education system dating back to the late 1900s. And so, as of right now, we have full possession and own the Springfield the Springfield project owns the John Taylor home, has owned that property since 2014. And that property is really, really in dire need of redevelopment and stabilization. So we're here to ask the committee to consider the opportunity to fund the stabilization of the John Taylor home. And again, full possession of that property. It sits at, the address is 902 South 12th Street, 902 South 12th Street. It's catty-cornered from Feitchens. We also own the 5 neighboring properties. And long-term, the benefit that this project, stabilization as well as long-term redevelopment, could have on the Southtown community. And again, when we view Southtown, when those who reference Southtown, we view it as the 10th Street rail to MLK and Pine Street to Cook Street, although Alderman Mayor will probably like us to extend those boundaries just a little bit. So again, it sits in the heart of the Southtown neighborhood, Southtown business district that sits to the south of the neighborhood. And so we accepted 3 individual bids from from 3 organizations who do great work in the community, one of which, well, actually, I'll give you a list of all those who submitted bids. TRB Incorporated Demolition, RD Lawrence, and then Southtown and Bone LLC Construction, which is a black-owned company. RD Lawrence ultimately, with the really long-term of really stabilizing that foundation and really ensuring that long-term we could build a solid, we could have a solid redevelopment project that incorporates STEM or STEAM now, because we included arts into that. So science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. So we want that to be the epicenter of a lot of that activity that's located on the east side in the Southtown community. And so, you know, long term, we have opportunity to incorporate a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of great work. One I would like to mention, because I think that there's an extreme opportunity there for them, their arts organization, Garvey Tubman. It would be, in my opinion, one of the first organizations that we would reach out to have space. We've also talked about having a presence for the historically black fraternities and sororities, alumni chapters who are doing tremendous work in the community as it relates to youth development and also career development and other things as it relates to workforce. Mentoring programs may be a large part of that activity as well. And those are all long-term. But the reason why we're here today, again, is to talk about the stabilization of a historic black site. One of 3 in our city. One of 3. And so if we do not stabilize the foundation, I don't know if we can make it past another winter, honestly. With the flooding and snow and all of that, you know, I just don't know if we'll make it past another winter with that structure as is. So, any questions in regards to John Taylor Home?
What type of foundation is presently under it now, brick or concrete?
I'm sorry?
What type of foundation is underneath of it now?
Well, if I could call up R.D. Lawrence. Currently, I believe it's a combination of wood and concrete, but we want to really stabilize it long term with concrete foundation. So, oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's presently a brick foundation, and our intention is to demo part of the basement, that the rest of the house will not south. And we'll put the house up on jacks, much like a house mover would do it. And we will employ a house mover to do that. But then what we'll do is tear the basement out from underneath the existing structure, go back with a concrete block, a 12-inch concrete block structure, and add some additional footings where bearing partitions have been lost. And then we'll salvage the brick that's original to the building to reface the upper part that will be visible from the ground up to the first floor. And then the back of the building will be temporaried in, metal siding used to stabilize it, as Dominic has mentioned. So that's basically it in a nutshell. New foundation will be poured, new 12-inch concrete block up so high, and then we'll step back to an 8-inch concrete block and face it with brick from the original foundation, and then take measures to repair other bearing partitions that are in the basement.
So would the basement floor and like the infrastructure be coming out too, that's underneath there, new put in?
Yeah, new footings will be down in the basement for utilizing for new block walls to go on top to provide bearing for partitions that are up on the first floor.
Sheila, you have a question?
Dominic, So I'm sorry if I missed this, but what's the overall goal for the Taylor home? I mean, is it going to be a museum? Is it going to be, what's the long-term plan for what's going to happen? And what's going to happen around it? I mean, I remember, with the Neighborhood of Hope projects, there was a lot of great development ideas, all around that. So are we still kind of going in that direction?
Yeah, so we definitely would like to have a historic tourist presence out of that space, but we really want to have wraparound activity. So we're looking at STEAM, right? So STEM plus art. We're looking at mentorship programs, utilizing the Divine Nine, so the historically black.
I'm sorry, I was looking at these while you were talking, and so this was in my head when I didn't realize that all that stuff was part of where you were going to put in the Taylor homes. Okay, got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'll get to that one in just a second.
Yeah, I am too.
So
But
definitely.
you don't have one for the like a visual from
We do not, because at this time we're just looking at stabilizing
I've
foundation.
seen it. I've been in it. Yeah. It's been
So
deteriorating
firsthand.
for how long? I mean, how long has it been let to go?
Yeah, so we took over the property in 2014.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're looking
It was
at
way before that.
Yeah, way before that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's why the sense of urgency around stabilizing this foundation is now. This winter, I anticipate being a rougher winter. I know we say this every year. We've been having mild winters for a while. But again, if we have a bad winter, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with that structure.
So what's your request?
So the request, and I'll get you the exact numbers. And then also to note here, with R.D. Lawrence, they have committed to working with Southtown Construction to be a subcontractor.
Good. That was only
Significant
another
investment.
question, yeah.
When you talked about the 3 bids, are they in competition with each other, or they're wrapped all to finish the project?
Initially, they were in competition of one another, and then we thought it would better serve our community from a minority representation standpoint by trying to see if we could establish a strong partnership between R.D. Lawrence and Southtown Construction. They do, I would like to highlight this senseless plug for Southtown Construction and Bone LLC. They have a tremendous training program for minority and underserved young men and women to get into the construction trades. And that total number is $217,720. So $217,720. And again, that's for the complete scope of the project that John referenced.
So what's the timeline for it? Is it something that'll happen, if we allocate this? Is this the full price of what's needed to do the stabilization, or are you getting funding for other things? Okay.
There are some environmental concerns that we may have. So we would want to contract with environmental and let me introduce Michelle Dix, who's our urban planner. We've been talking about how we can have an environmental analysis done, and again, I'm misrepresenting the terms for the actual scan and survey of the land. But we want to ensure that there's no environmental concerns that are located out of that structure. So we want to ensure that we do our due diligence with that as well.
That will be before you do the stabilization, or
in conjunction with that.
So will part of this money go toward the environmental analysis as well?
No. This is just for the stabilization.
So where is that going to come from?
We're estimating about an additional $30,000 tied to that. The request is actually detailed in our continuing our Tiff request for that. So it's highlighted in that.
And I think I'll just, and we'll move on to her in just a second. For the commissioner's purposes, I think for today, we're going to listen to the proposal, but we don't have enough information in the office yet and presented to us to vote on this today. So just so you're aware. So I think this is a great fact-finding opportunity. And then when we do have that, there's some chance we may do a special meeting or something just so we can help expedite this along. Okay?
Okay, perfect.
One of the things I did want to mention with respect to the environmental, right now, the federal EPA has a brownfields grant that's available. And so we will be implementing or utilizing as many resources as possible, grant opportunities, any kind of tax credit opportunities to be able to impact that the capital stack for the development project.
Okay. And the total request that we're seeking from Tiff dollars is in the amount of $291. That includes that environmental scan as well. And we do have originally we submitted a request for CBDG dollars for both projects, and so we're shifting into application for Tiff for this project. So that's why we don't have the full application available to you all. All right.
Is there a reason for that shift? I mean, on our end, or?
Just the expediency and the need to revitalize as quickly as possible. Just because, as Dominic mentioned, it does not seem to be that the structure will make it through another winter. So we want to be able to move those funds for revitalization as quickly as possible. That's the reason.
So if there's no other questions on the Taylor home, if it's okay, if I could move to Cap 1908. Yes.
Yes. Any other questions on Taylor home? All right, great. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So can I say that I'm so excited about the opportunity to present here on Cap 1908, Community Access Project 1908, Community Access Project 1908. And so, again, we started off on this journey about it was more than 3 years ago, actually having conversations with Innovate Springfield about how the Black Chamber could strengthen its partnership with the greater Springfield community outside of the minority business community. And so, that conversation started about 5 years ago, and we talked about really the need for an accelerator program for minority businesses located on the east side of town. That's how this conversation started about 5 years ago. And then it progressed over the last 3 years into a full-fledged redevelopment project that really, and we're talking about the overarching Cap 1908 project, and we'll move into this specific funding. But Cap 1908 encompasses 3 major components across 6 properties, essentially. And so we're looking at the corner of 11th and South Grand. That includes the now vacant storefront that was that got a lot of press for the wrong reasons back in February, where there was a shooting that took place inside the building, unsolicited. And an unapproved party took place in that location. Then to the east of that building is Madison Furniture Store, historic 90-year-plus staple of our community. And then the Southtown Theater, or the original Empress Theater. And this sits in arguably one of the oldest business districts as the city documents it. It was originally Southtown neighborhood, Southtown Business District was supposed to be the suburban downtown of Springfield. And so obviously we have not accomplished that goal, almost a century later, or greater than a century later. And so this project encompasses, again, 3 major areas of focus: innovation, education, and entertainment. And so we're here specifically and exclusively for the purposes of the corner property, which is the 1100 South Grand, that's now vacant, that was in the news back in February. Acquiring that, as well as a little bit of work tied to opening the doors of our CAP 1908 Social Innovation Center. And so housed out of that would be co-working activity, incubation and acceleration services in partnership with Innovate Springfield, as well as a lot of other community stakeholders as well. We also have the opportunity to we're building on to about eight offices that will house community organizations, as well as, again, co-working space and meeting space. So this will be a great opportunity for us to reinforce the importance of the connectivity across the 11th Street with the university and other businesses that are located on 11th Street. And then again, the focus on Southtown, which the city has been doing a great job to highlight Southtown, utilizing partnerships with the state of Illinois. Gina Lathan Harris has been contracted to do a lot of great work in that community as it relates to collecting data to inform long-term what we can incorporate, again, in that pocket. I really see Southtown and the Southtown Business District as a opportunity to take the show on the road. So if we can prove that and illustrate that this model works, where we partner with community stakeholders who are doing great work in the community, across the community, to kind of take their show on the road and bring their services into a central location on the east side of town, and then couple that with neighborhood redevelopment, partnerships with the school district, and ultimately the Taylor home as well. I really feel like that could be a good model and a catalyst to do other projects over on the east side of town. And so I have my urban planner here, who drove all the way up from Metro East just to be here today, Michelle Dix. And she is going to dive into a lot of the day-to-day and pro forma as well as it relates to this project. And then I'll come back and kind of talk numbers and kind of wrap up the presentation. So.
Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for allowing me to be here today to present before you guys and to join Dominic in being able to discuss a project that has such a transformative effect. Being from an underserved community, I understand what this means for East Springfield. So again, I thank you. So I am not sure, and I do apologize that you all may not have had this earlier, but what we have created is a small project pro forma packet, okay? And so the packet pretty much consists of co-working incubator case study models, a pro forma worksheet with 5 years of projections, the CAP 1908 co-working rental incubation business services rates. That is inclusive of the co-working space rates, the incubation rates, and the business services rates. And this is the document that I'm referencing. Okay. So before I really dive into the pro forma and discuss how this will actually be, this project will be one that will not only bring a cross-sector benefit to the east side of Springfield, I also want to point out some of the information and how it impacts the numbers in the pro forma. So, of course, the first 2 pages after the table of contents references the incubator case study models that we are looking to as examples for the Incubator Innovation Center project for CAP 1908. The first one is 1921, co-working and incubator in West Pullman, Illinois. And West Pullman, once upon a time, was a community that was severely disadvantaged and under-resourced. And so they've been able, with economic development, to be able to change the trajectory and the downward spiral of poverty in that community. The other example that we are using is CIC and CIC at CAC. CET in St. Louis, Missouri, as well as CIC St. Louis. And so those two projects are in what we call the Cortex neighborhood in the city of St. Louis, and they've really made a dramatic result to the conditions of Forest Park Boulevard, okay? And so it also actually reaches all the way over, if anyone's familiar with Highway 40. And so what it does is in St. Louis, you have St. Louis University, and then it connects what used to be referred to as the Golden Spine all the way down to Washington University, incorporating some of the medical district, et cetera, et cetera. So we think that those are very good projects, and we also look forward to being able to go to Chicago to actually visit the Pullman neighborhood, as well as visit the 1921 Co-working Center, and hoping that they will become partners for us in development. So the page following, so I'm going to skip the actual pro forma, and I'm going to come back to that. What I'd like to show you in the CAP 1908 co-working rental and incubation business service rates is where we're deriving this data from, okay, and what our actual co-working spaces look like, and the rates for each, and how many units we're going to have available of each one of those, based on the particular, I'll say, walkthrough and a site plan. And that it may change a little as we go through the space, but we'll certainly make sure, that local government is updated with all project plans. The incubation rates are also presented for you, okay, because those impact our pro forma as well. And then lastly, the last page, really these are to be determined rates, because there is a possibility of being able to collaborate with a community partner where maybe some of these services we would be able to really extend to the minority business population free of charge. So we're looking into that, okay? So I'm going to go to the pro forma right now and discuss what this document actually means, okay? So if you guys would give me a minute. Okay, well, I'll start here. So our total project budget right now, as it stands, is $1,342.48. And that constitutes of $160,000 worth of acquisition. And so I would like to break down how we arrive at that number. The first number, which is the improvements number, is 80% of what the purchase of 1100 South Grand Avenue is. And so we break that off into the 80% because we always look at, when there's a structure on the property, we look at the remaining 20% as being land value. So that $76,000 includes the 20% left over from the 105 for the acquisition of 1100 South Grand, as well as, the 20% that is left over, yes, from the acquisition, as well as the rear parcels, and those rear parcels will be used for parking. The capital expenses and construction budget, we forecast that at $909,756. The construction fee, we estimate at 10% of that at $90,750.60. And the capital expenses contingency, we estimate at 20% at $181,951.20. After calculations, now what we have here is we have several different types of rental units. So if I were to flip back again to the page following that, it would outline what types of co-working office spaces we're using. And so based on our model, what you'll see there is 37 because of the way we actually compile the virtual mail office. And how we address the numbers for that. But what that helps us to arrive at is a monthly potential rental income for the corner unit, 1100 South Grand, at being $24,375. We estimate the project annually to grow at a rate of, the revenues to grow at a rate of 5.8% 0.4%. We base that on an inflation rate. So if nothing else, we do anticipate the project will grow at a rate of did I say inflammation? Inflation. So that actually looks like year one, a total of $292,500 for year one, $308,295 for year two, $324,943 for year three, $342,490 for year four, and for year five, $360,984. And while I do understand that I believe 3 years of projections were required, it's really actually important, from this perspective, to really be able to show what 5 years of projections will really be able, what 5 years of projections will look like for that property. I'd like to jump down to net operating income. Net operating income, we calculate for that first year, the monthly actual at being $12,190. Once we come to the close of year one, we see that annual number being $146,275. For year three, we see that it being $161,280. For year four, $175,780. For year five, and actually my numbers are, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself, but for the following year, $191,120. And for that last year, $207,347, which is pretty phenomenal for the Incubator Center. And really, that's it. There are some more other highlights that I have down here, but I'd like to take on any questions at this particular point in time regarding any of the numbers presented.
And Commissioners, similar to the last project, the Economic Development Office has not had time to review this package enough for us to vote on this for approval or decline. So really, at this point, it'd be clarifying questions. And then when we will reconvene once they're done with their preliminary work. But any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So all the numbers that you just provided, that is only for one of the buildings.
That is for 1100 South Grand.
So is that where we're starting? This is phase one or something, or are you going to be presenting the whole thing?
Yes. So at the request of the mayor and a few aldermen, we decided to go in the direction of acquisition of the most important part of the redevelopment, which is the Social Innovation Center. And so we hope long-term that we can come back before you all and the city to get additional approval for additional dollars. But we want to start with this project because, it's the most significant portion of the project. And this would be phase one. There is, a couple other phases that get us all the way up to 3, which is full redevelopment.
So I think I heard you're partnering with Innovate.
So that partnership is programming.
The programming piece.
Yes,
mm-hmm. And that's with the university.
So
as well, or
so this when we initially started brainstorming about this, it was really came to the table to really talk about how we can establish again the programming over on the east side in conjunction with Innovate Springfield. We've advanced in those conversations. We're to the point where we're collectively looking at grant opportunities. And again, Innovate Springfield is owned by and operated by UIS, so they are at the table. But again, we are partnering on programming, and those are the conversations that are really, really driving the redevelopment.
So you may have already mentioned this, but do you guys own that building yet, or is that part of the?
Perfect. And I did forget to disclose that in my initial introduction. So we have a contract out. We're just waiting on the owners to sign it. And again, it's for the $105,000.
So that's for the building A right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
The corner location.
So that's the Springfield project would own
The
it?
Springfield project, the Black Chamber, we will house office out of there, and the collaboration for CAP 1908 is with with TSP, the Springfield project, and the Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce.
Well, but who's the lead entity?
The Springfield project.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just have one question about co-working in general. I've done a lot of reading about, the world of work and how things have changed. And, are you confident that co-working, because I've read, some back and forth about whether, co-working is really the future that we thought it was maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. But I've never seen that broken down. Nothing I've read has really been broken down by demographics or types of communities. It's just sort of general theories, I guess. So are you guys looking at that
Absolutely.
closely?
And I'm glad you asked that, because, co-working is one of the offerings out of CAP 1908. And we get a lot of calls from especially minority business owners about access to office space that oftentimes they don't want to go downtown. There's this divide that exists at 11th Street. And so oftentimes people don't want to cross 11th Street for services they should get right there, or even access to resources, including an office space, co-working space. They don't want to drive downtown. So we field a lot of calls. Obviously, with the Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce being at the table, that gives us access to hundreds of black business owners who we can incorporate, various memberships into their Black Chamber membership. But we expect, again, that model to be successful if we wrap around other services to include out of CAP 1908. So to your point, a lot of the research out there is for exclusive co-working spaces, not necessarily co-working spaces that are partnering with non-for-profits, et cetera.
Right. That's very true, yeah. Okay, great, thank you.
And can I give a senseless, not senseless plug, but a huge plug, shameless, there we go, shameless plug. So CAP 1908 was referenced in the Next 10, the final report for the Next 10 that Community Foundation for the Land of Lincoln published. And they said that this could really shift the dynamics of the East Side community. And again, it was highlighted as one of the potential projects that we should champion as a community.
Have just a couple questions on the pro formas. So I see total number of units 37 and average monthly rent $659. Is that, I guess, is there a market for 37, number one, and is $659 per month feasible? And
The best way to answer that is actually to look at each one of the units and what they're really priced at, okay? For the sake of the pro forma, what we did was we had to come up with an average for the numbers, and that's why it says the number is 37. But when you look to the second page or the next page, those numbers of units available, they really add up to be more than that 37, because the virtual mail office is actually more of like a mail room. This is a service so there is certainly a need for private office, okay? And because of the services that are included, which are the incubation services, and so when you look down in the second chart, you'll see like technology lease fee, phone lease fee, meeting room rental. Those are a la carte services. But for the first chart, those are actually included as part of the membership, okay? So that helps to justify the rate of $350 for the private offices, 3 of those, and we're calling those interior offices. The second set of private offices, we listed a rate of $425, but they are on the first floor, and they give a much higher level of exposure. And then you go on to the semi-private offices and on down. But there is a need for even the virtual mail office space, because you have many, and the number that we came up with was 1402. And so what we did was for minority businesses in the city of Springfield. And so what we did was we just took a modest approach at that, and we looked at 25% of that and being able to capture that audience for the co-working and space rental for the virtual mail office. And that's why you see 351 units available, and that is simply a service that will serve for business owners to have a legitimate mail address as opposed to a home address, that sometimes is frowned upon from a professional perspective. I know nowadays, in light of COVID, a lot of people are working from home offices, but as we shift back to some sense of normalcy, there still is a need for a virtual mail office space. And when I say that, I say mail, but I'm thinking mail in my head, but I mean M-A-I-L, okay? So, and that's at a rate of $50, okay? And so what that allows not only for them to use the office space, but to be able to come and pick up mail, access mail. And that's very important even for some of the applications, a presence for SAMS.gov. And from SAMS.gov, of course, that's a requirement for Illinois GATA in the state of Illinois. And so this virtual mail office space is really important in the space of small business development. I want to say small minority business, but just small business development, period.
Okay, thank you. And is the request here going to be the 1.342 million, or how is the funding going to come together?
So our initial request for dollars represented about 46% of that budget. The exact number, I just need to pull it from the application here, but was around the neck of the woods of 600. We've been in communication with the city to thank you, Michelle. So $630,955. That was our initial request. I think in terms of the investment and what it could yield for residents of the east side of the community and surrounding parts, I feel like that is super important to fund it at this level. That gets us open, right? That 1.3 gets us everything we want out of the space. State of the art. And so 47% of that budget, or 48% of the budget is represented with the ask that we're making. And again, that gets us open, that gets us turnkey, that gets us some of our programming needs met as well out, within a shorter time frame.
Two questions. So is the Black Chamber and TSP going to move into this?
Absolutely, yes.
Are you going to pay rent?
Yes. Yes.
So because this is owned by a non-for-profit, there will be no increment created in this specific, is that correct? There will be no increment in the Tiff created. Because it's a non-for-profit, right? So I mean, my guess is that the increment enhancement will come with all the other business development that is generated through this facility.
Yeah, and this is specifically tied not to TIF dollars, but this is CDBG.
Oh, this is CDBG. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The other one was,
the other one was TIF. So this is CDBG.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
So.
Great. Okay.
And again, our goal, this is again just one element of the other three, or I'm sorry, the other two parts of the redevelopment, and we hope to have significant tax benefit in terms of revenue generated by the city
pieces, yeah.
Throughout, and even through this.
Even through this one, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you have a job creation component? I mean,
yes, absolutely. So we're looking at workforce development. We are looking at other training programs that get people to living wages. We're looking at young professional development. We're looking to centralize our youth service program or summer youth employment and empowerment program out of that space, mentoring for business owners. There's quite a list of things that we're looking to offer. We're talking with a lot of business advocacy and business development groups here in Springfield about actually having office hours out of this space. And so we're going down the list, and we want this to be just what it is, a social innovation center. So focusing on human capital as well as business capital.
And I'm going to assume that you're working closely with the alderman that represents this district?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've been in constant communication to the degree that sometimes we're talking late at night or early in the morning. So definitely.
Great. That's an exciting project.
Any other questions? Mayor, did you have a few words you wanted to say about the project?
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the commission's vetting this. What we would ask, or for your consideration, you can say yes or no, that's up to you. If you think you can meet next week, that's what we'd probably ask for. But really, I believe with the Taylor House especially, we're under a time commitment because winter's upon us, and it has to go before council, so we're trying to meet that timeline. And Sue Massey, she's been the architect on the Taylor House for probably over a decade. She could speak to the bidding process before. So if the commission's comfortable with that, what we would ask for is to approve the bid up to that amount with the caveat that R.D. Lawrence would have to work with Bone Training Institute, the other entity. And the importance of that is because the training component, when you speak of the history of the Taylor House, one of the items there, it was a trade school at one time. So when we applied for the cannabis grant, just to give you a little perspective, we wanted to bring the groups together to refurbish that, and it'd be a living history, what it was and what we're doing today. So that's the importance of that relationship moving forward through this whole project. But if you're comfortable with the bid, moving that direction, that's what we'd want, is both those entities working together. And then before it comes to council, we'd have to have all the paperwork associated to meet the parameters of a TIF request. On this particular project, if you're comfortable, again, we'd like the approval to purchase the property. And that would be the corner building as well as the parcels that are vacated. So those are, vacant right now. It's not the other parts that generate tax increment at a greater level. But we would like to move forward and then come back. It has to be bid out, of course. And those are the documents we need to fine-tune the construction part of it in more detail. But we know what the asking price for the parcels are. So before it escalates or anything of that nature, if you're comfortable, again, making a recommendation to purchase those, we'd like to move forward with the purchase of those properties. But if not, we'd probably ask for a special commission meeting before the next city council meeting.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
I just wanted to highlight what the mayor said. With Cap 1908, we will fully bid out the project. And again, I know we have numbers that were provided by O'Shea, as well as with the help of Farnsworth with the renderings, et cetera. But we're fully committed to ensuring that we bid out the process. We also want to ensure that there's minority representation. Exceeding the expectations of what's written in. Again, we are the Black Chamber of Commerce. We do have the Black Chamber of Commerce a part of this project. So again, we're looking at a significant commitment to job creation, et cetera, through not only the construction process, but also the day-to-day operations.
Is there an estimate of what the entire renovation of the Taylor home is going to cost?
We haven't gotten to that point because, again, the most important piece.
Do we have any idea? I mean, we'd be putting in, what, $290,000 or $300,000 into the environmental plus the structural. Do we have any idea what, given
I can certainly look into that and come back and provide that information. I'm just not comfortable giving you a guesstimate at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, or you can go ahead and have a seat if you'd like. So I guess just a few thoughts, just following up on the mayor's comments, and then I'll ask the commissioners their opinions as well. I personally, not as the chairperson, just as a member, am not comfortable voting on anything at this point because I just feel like I haven't seen enough information, and I've only been presented it here this morning. With that said, I am, if everybody else is open to it, I'm open to moving as quickly as possible to accommodate. And everything that I've heard, really exciting projects. Thank you, by the way, for the presentations, and clearly well thought out from both of your ends. And these seems like great projects. So, other thoughts from other commissioners?
I thought it was presented very well. Sometimes when we're on this committee, our heads are spinning because we're not sure exactly what you're talking about, so I thought you presented it very well.
And anybody have opinions about whether we should vote on this today or if we would request additional information to move forward?
So I guess a question for Ravi then is in terms of the checklist and how much of that is been provided. Is there a lot that's still outstanding? I mean, that's kind of what I don't feel like I have a sense of with this just being presented to us today. So what do you have? What do you need?
Right. We're in the process of gathering that data right now, the important requirements. We certainly want to move, as the mayor said, in an expedient way on the Taylor home, but we want to ensure that we do have those minimum requirements, so we're not caught in a rock and a hard place. So if it's, the commissioners, if they're okay with it, I can certainly vet the pro forma as well as the financial documents that were provided this morning, and we can organize those in terms of reviewing the checklist and seeing what remains outstanding. So this information I was just provided this morning, so have not been able to see it, but as far as the Taylor house is concerned, I think that if we move in that direction where the commissioners could possibly vote to approve pending the financials are in place.
So does it make sense if we hold another special meeting next week, but go ahead and approve the structural piece to the Taylor?
Yes, that would be.
Do that now.
Yes.
I mean, would that help?
Yes,
the
that would
process?
certainly help. Yes, if the commission would move in that direction.
Yeah, I feel comfortable putting that on the table for the Taylor house. The other project seems a little bit more overwhelming, and I'd like to see that in writing. So I'm fine with voting on approving the Taylor house project today, if you guys are ready for that.
I agree with that, yeah. Do you want to make a motion? So?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the request for the Taylor house to this committee.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. And any discussion? I guess just a clarifying question from my perspective. So the approval that has been motioned would be the approval of the foundational piece, or are we just talking about purchasing? Or no, they already own the building, so
Yes,
we're talking about.
We're looking at the
217.
winterization piece just to get it prepared for the winter. And like the mayor had said, we want to ensure that Artie Lawrence is talking with the other bidder to ensure that we do have the proper bid in place for that.
Okay, and that was the 200 and
The
how much?
217.
Yeah, that's what I was going to clarify.
217, 720 was the budget for that.
720. Okay.
That does not include the environmental piece to it. It's
Correct.
just the structural piece.
Correct, Sheila.
Right.
Okay.
So do the partnership with Bone LLC and R.D. Lawrence, is that in place? I mean, is that, or that's just an idea, or I mean, is that kind of?
Contract signed.
Because I think that's a great component to
Yeah.
this project. I really do.
I think, I'm sorry, Sheila.
No, go ahead.
I think the mayor or Dominic can certainly speak to that, in terms of where we're at with that partnership.
I also think that's a huge thing for Bone LLC in the big picture to be partnered with an organization like R.D. Lawrence and for hopefully for future job development, opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I spoke with John from RD Lawrence, and he's fully committed to bringing again Bone LLC or Southtown Construction to the table to come up with an agreement on how they would again work together on this project. But again, we want to ensure that the full scope of stabilizing the property was up to par. That way, we wouldn't have to come before you in the future to ask for additional dollars associated with stabilizing the Taylor home.
So I guess I would just say, I mean, it's clear that that agreement is not in place, but that would be something that I would hope that we could, continue to really, and it's obviously if it's not an agreement, it could potentially not come about, but I would really urge that piece to it because I think that's a really great component.
Absolutely. And we're excited about that component because, again, they are doing great work in the community, and we want to ensure that we continue to support them along the way. And then I do know that I was kind of done talking, but if we could reconsider the purchase of the corner, at the very least, that again with full commitment of coming back to the table, and after we've accurately vetted the numbers with you all and provided whatever information additionally that was requested, but that
Was that for the 105?
yes, the 1100.
Yeah.
1100.
So is that time sensitive, the purchase?
It is. There's been a lot of challenges as it relates to that property, and I think if we continue to allow it to be in the possession of those who aren't really vested in the long-term commitment of empowering that side of town and that intersection, then
Do we
there
know
could
what that
potentially be
building's
additional
assessed
problems.
at? What the assessed value of that building is?
The assessed value, I'll have to get the exact number, but the fair market value is 105, so we'd be just offering the fair market value. And the owner is in agreement that to sell it for that amount. We're just waiting on the return of the paperwork.
Okay.
I think we got a
So let's
motion.
go, we'll go back here since we have a motion on the table for the Taylor home. So back to the Taylor home for a minute. Is the motion also, are we subject to something from your office before it, or I guess I'm confused of what's going to happen after this?
After this, we'll review the pro forma, the financial documents, ensure everything is in place, and then I can communicate to the commissioners as well, that everything is a go, and we have greenlit this. But I think the motion on the table right now is to move forward with the stabilization, pending that we have all the documents in place.
Okay. Just my personal comments on the issue, again, not as the chairperson, as a committee person, is I would rather, I'm just not a put the cart before the horse kind of person. I guess that's because I'm a banker and that's what I do every day. But I would rather know exactly what it is that I'm approving and before I approve. And I'm very comfortable meeting tomorrow if that's the day. But that's just my opinion. And any other comments from committee members?
Are you commenting on the first, on this?
On the
motion?
Taylor home.
On the Taylor home?
On the Taylor home.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, well, maybe we better take a hand vote on this one just to make sure we're all, okay. So I guess all in favor of the motion to approve the Taylor home as presented, and then of course, assuming it passes all the checks and balances within the Office of Economic Development, if you would raise your hand if you're in approval. All right, and not? Okay, motion carries. Okay, very good. And then I guess we need to move on to address the Community Assessment Project 1908, and as I understand it, a request to consider purchasing the real estate only and not approving the rest of the project. Is that a fair assessment of the request? Okay. Any additional comments there or motions?
So how does that work in the big picture if we're sort of approving funding, so to speak, in components?
Yeah, I think the project is broken down by phases, and currently just the acquisition is this first phase, so that's what's presented.
That's all they're requesting, is
Yes,
this
and
first
then-
phase?
Yeah, and I think the mayor can
is the
speak a
105.
little bit more on that.
Yeah, with this project, we're using community development block grant funds, so it has to meet a national objective. And one of those national objectives is the incubator concept business development. So that's why we're comfortable in moving with the property acquisition. But it has to move forward towards that to meet the requirements under CDBG guidelines. So that will be within those closing documents. But again, we need additional information to come forward with the perfection of the financials and how that cash flows and everything else. With the operations and the renovation, it has to be bid out, even though they might have got a preliminary bid from somebody, you have to bid that out for, the requirements of CDBG funds.
So do I understand, like, let's say, for instance, it was purchased and for whatever reason it didn't become a business development incubator and it became a community center, or it became something else. Are you saying that would not be eligible then, or?
It would have to meet one of the requirements under the community development block grant. So specifically, it'd have to tend to fill a gap need that benefits low mod income areas,
But it's not
which is in the
just
area,
business
or
development.
the individuals. That's
right.
the
I mean, there's a
preference.
broader.
Yeah.
It
So
could.
you can-
should something switch or change? I mean, it would. There's still plenty of need that could be fulfilled with this facility.
Correct.
Well, I'll make a motion that we move forward on the purchase with the purchase price with the CDBG.
And I second. That corner needs some help.
I do. I would agree with that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for the acquisition of the property at, is that 11? Forgive me.
Yeah,
Okay.
1,100.
And again, this doesn't need to be in the motion, but this is not to include the construction at this time. This is just for the acquisition of the site. Is that accurate? Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay, is there a discussion on this point? Again, as a commissioner now, not as the chairperson, I will, you might guess what I'm going to say. Especially on this project, I feel like, if we don't know where we're going with the final project yet, then we've acquired something that has no end purpose. And to me, that I just don't operate that way. And again, that's just how from a business perspective. But at the same time, I respect everybody's opinion. So, any other thoughts or discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Well, again, we'll do a hand vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand to approve. And opposed? Okay, and let the record note, Mark Vance is the only opposition. Please don't take this as I don't think the project's great. It's just the timing is what is my concern. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your presentations, and thank you, Mayor, for those words on that project. Okay. I think we can move on to the Enos Park Tiff status update.
Yes. Just wanted to provide an update for the commissioners. The Enos Park Tiff, I'm sure everybody has heard, the General Assembly at the veto session did vote to extend the tenure of the Enos Park Tiff. Moving forward, that was done on October 28th. Moving forward, we will be awaiting the governor's signature to formally have that TIF life extended. Just wanted to provide an update as far as in the past, we've had our TIF exterior rehabilitation program, which is largely what we've used the Enos Park TIF for. The allocation, the appropriation for that Enos Park TIF has been $250,000 since 2017. Just wanted to highlight that in that time frame, just in the Enos Park TIF, we've been able to complete 28 residential rehabilitation projects, and we have one more that's just pending. So we do great work in that area. We've awarded $183,000, since 2017, just for the Tiff exterior rehab. So I wanted to just provide that update, and we hope to do the same in the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay, great. Any questions as it relates to the Enos Park TIF?
I just want to add that I was able to attend the press conference this morning. That's why I was late, so I apologize. And I don't know if the mayor wants to say anything, but it was a great conference hosted by Memorial, what are they calling themselves now? Memorial Health, I hope I get it right, with Representative Sue Scheer, Senator Doris Turner, Supervisor Joe Aleo, Alderwoman Lakeisha Purchase, who am I forgetting, Mayor Langfelder, and Ed Curtis the CEO of, so I mean, it's exciting. I mean, finally, this is what we wanted. I think if we recall that this body did submit a letter to the township requesting that we get this letter. And that was a long time ago. It didn't look like that was maybe necessarily going to happen, but it has. So, I think we don't get a lot of credit, but we get to at least say that we did put something in there and to try for it. So we were championing that.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Mayor?
Yep. We appreciate the commission's support for that. It means millions of dollars to Enos Park. And I'd ask Michelle Ownby, she's been at it a long time, to say a few words, because that's what it's all about, individuals that live in the area that really made it happen. And when you talk about the YMCA, it's a anchor for not only that area, but the medical community downtown. It's just, this will help bring millions to that area to reinvest, which is really will put it on the trajectory we all want. And so that's what's important. But the other aspect with regards to Enos Park in that discussion, there's a lot of talk about, need an oversight board or with the taxing bodies. Just to re-educate everybody, by state law, there's a joint review board, and the joint review board has all the taxing bodies that participate. Unfortunately, they don't participate to that level. And so that's what we re-educated the individuals involved in that process. And this commission adopted what sounds like it's going to happen at the state legislature, which is using a oversight commission that would involve the taxing bodies. We've already done that with the school district. We had previously Alderwoman Purchase, who was a Capital Township trustee. But we will expand this board to, add a greater comfort level, I guess you would say, with some of the other taxing bodies to allow them a seat at the table. But we hope that they reach the level of transparency the city of Springfield has done and led the way on, because not everybody can stand the scrutiny of the media like the city of Springfield. We just hope that they invite us to public health board and things of that nature. And the reason for that, the council members are the ones that get the calls. I mean, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's very important when people talk about transparency, accountability. You're living proof of it. This is a professional commission. We want to maintain that professionalism, and we don't want government getting in the way of that professionalism. So we appreciate the good work you continue to do, but we will be expanding it to give everybody a greater comfort level, and hopefully they gain greater insights in the great work that you do. But this time I'd like Michelle, if she would like to come up and say a few words, because she's been the champion of Enos Park for a long period of time, and we appreciate your great work.
I wasn't planning to speak today, but I'll just say that, yes, we're very glad to see the Enos Park TIF get renewed almost a year after the fact. It's a shame that we had to lose a little bit of momentum there, and our very popular programs with the homeowner match for the exterior rehabilitation and the down payment assistance for veterans and first responders, that's essentially been on hold since the TIF expired last December, so we can now get those going again. Plus, we still have our land bank with about 75 vacant properties, and we continue to have conversations with developers to try to get some new construction, particularly workforce housing or senior housing going. This gives us an incentive to offer, because we all know that it's not like people are falling all over themselves to do new construction in older neighborhoods that have lower appraisal values. So it's hard enough as it is. And if we had had to go without the opportunity for TIF incentives, that would make it even that much more challenging. So it's really a shame that, one taxing body that represents, it's $5,000 a year to Capital Township, and they were essentially holding hostage a potential $6 million over the next 12 years for redevelopment in the Enos Park neighborhood. But we're glad that that was able to get resolved, and it's very critical for our continued redevelopment efforts.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, next on the agenda, discuss the goals for the commission. And, I don't know if we have necessarily an agenda here, just more of a discussion, really. So for, I guess, really just thinking about, I think you mentioned we don't really have any set of bylaws necessarily for this commission. And so anyway, just a little discussion, and then at the end, I'll even ask the mayor if I'm sure he has goals for this commission, and we'll hear his as well. So, but I don't know, any thoughts from the commissioners of what should be the goals for this commission?
Well, I wasn't prepared to say, but from the very beginning with this, I would like to see this. It's not really a goal; it's more a structural thing. I would love to see this commission have more teeth in the process. And really the only way I think to do that would be to make this commission like the Planning and Zoning Commission or like some of the others where you actually have to be voted out of this commission before you get to City Council. That's just not how it was put together. We have lots of boards and commissions that are not that way. That's one thing that, I'd like to see, perhaps. I don't even know how that gets done or if that's something anybody else wants, but, I just feel like often, I don't know how to say, I just think it would empower us more to be more engaged in these projects. We might go out and visit them. We might, just be more engaged as not like, have a representative that maybe represents us, that visits, the Taylor House or, I don't know.
I made that comment at the last meeting, and I know I was only on Zoom, but I feel like we vote on these projects, which are pretty crucial to Springfield and surrounding areas, and then once we vote, we never hear about it again. And I don't know if our work is being, important, I guess, to these projects, and so it's always nice to just know what's happening with the ones we're voting on. That would be one of my recommendations, is just to have updates every single time, because we vote on them and then we never hear about them again unless we are, involved more with the project.
Yeah, and I'd just like to have, I know time restraints and everything else, but I'm kind of on the fence with Mark today, I'm kind of right there, we need to have this information to us in an adequate time, the way we could visit it, look it over, discuss it amongst us before the meeting or whatever it takes, It's just, it just seems, since I've been on, it seems like it's getting a little bit more away from us. We're not getting the information in a timely manner we should be getting it, and we need to review it a lot sooner instead of right at the moment. Because you're putting us in a critical spot in a situation by not having it.
And to Ravi's defense, we've been talking about that since the last meeting, and in fact, this morning we talked about it. And even we haven't had time to dialogue after this meeting, which we were going to, but even things like, if a package isn't into his office, and don't quote me, this isn't the policy yet, but ideas floating around of if the package isn't into their office by Friday before our meeting, that gives them time to vet it, and I think we should get it by Monday night before our meeting at the latest, just so we have time to review, and then we know that it's passed all the city checks and balances. So I don't know what the answer is, but something like that is what we've been talking about.
Well, I think that, I'm sorry.
No, I just feel like, we're just kind of going backwards with things, like Mark spoke earlier. We need to get things in front of it, and a lot more information prior would be helpful.
I think if we establish that as a parameter, that also lets the people know who are presenting to us, because I don't get the sense what they've been told, right? So I don't know if they know really what our role is and what, and well, are they going to vote, or whatever. But I mean, if we have that as an established rule, then, then it's just like, well, okay, if the packet wasn't put together, if it wasn't vetted by Friday before, then we're going to have to go to the next meeting or do a special meeting or do whatever. So I would be totally comfortable with that. I just feel sometimes I just get the sense that, it comes to us very late. The folks that are working on it, it's a barrier if we don't move forward. And I don't think that we're here to create barriers, but we certainly are also, it's taxpayer funding. And I think that the people who come before us need to understand that as well, that this is not just,
I think we need to make note, too, that, Mark, you've been on this committee for a long time. This is my third year, and it hasn't always been this way. You know what I mean? Like, we have had the paperwork in front of us, and I just feel maybe with, some fluctuation in staff and things like that, we need to just get back on track. I felt, my first year on this, it was organized, and I had the paperwork, and I could read it a week ahead of time. So,
which would be great.
So it has been that way. It's just we need to get back on track.
Yeah, and if I could just speak to that, I do want to apologize. I'm new, still adjusting to the process, and I can certainly stand from the commissioner's standpoint, having that information, adequately presented in a timely fashion. I completely agree, Mark, on that. And I'll certainly do my due diligence, to have the checklist, properly sent to you guys so you can have ample time, to review the projects, let them swirl in your minds, as well as create topping points if needed. I think the anomaly with this particular meeting was we just had an ECDC meeting 2 weeks ago. I wanted to ensure that we were just setting a precedent, of having our meetings scheduled, on the first Tuesday of every month. Prior to our October 19th meeting, the last time we actually had quorum was May 26th. So I thought it was a significant achievement that at least we've had quorum twice in a row, already, and we're on track to have our next meeting. I believe it'd be December 7th. December 7th at 11:30, which will be the precedent moving forward. So I apologize. We're kind of working through the kinks, of everything. And I think our next meeting will certainly be more informative and more fine-tuned.
I just want to say that I think you're doing a great job. You've been extremely responsive to me and all my questions, and I get the sense that you, in your core, really believe in transparency and accountability, which is, I think, what we need to do. And I think it's important that you are receiving the support that you need to be able to be able to meet those goals. And, we don't have an economic development. You don't have a boss. You have a boss.
Right there.
You have a boss, but your department doesn't have a boss. So all that plays into, how things function, and there have been other staffing changes, and so no, I think you're doing a great job, and we appreciate what you've been able to do. But and I think you understand what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Well, and I think, Sheila, you mentioned it earlier, but I think it is helpful, and to the people that want to present, here's a deadline.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to be in the way at all, but at the same time, it's only fair to you, to us, and then more importantly to the citizens of Springfield that things get vetted properly before we vote on them.
I agree.
So.
I think as someone who's sitting here brand new up here today, I was at the last meeting, I think some established goals and guidelines are going to be absolutely critical, because as today we jumped in, made a decision on something that we might not ever hear about again, according to what I've seen and read in the past. So we're jumping in, making a quick decision, but we don't even know what happens after the fact. Right. So I made that note last time sitting in the audience when Sandy spoke up and talked about project tracking. I thought that was a big deal, and she reiterated that again today, and I think that needs to be part of this. When we're approving these dollars, this is significant to the community, and then we don't know anything else unless we go drive by.
Right.
So maybe it's a monthly and then a quarterly or semi-annually update, whether it's a verbal presentation, they come in and give us that, or at least submit something to the office so that then we can kind of review. Are they doing everything that they said they were going to do? I mean, yeah, we've committed the dollars to buy the building, but where's that at? What else are they doing? So I think it's important to probably establish some pretty good guidelines and goals so that we're able to show, what we've approved and what's gotten accomplished out of that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty rewarding to the citizens of Springfield, if they knew where the project went. Did it succeed? Did it fail? And it kind of gives everybody an ease at mind.
Sure.
I think it's important to remember that, after we do what we do, this goes to city council, and that is an elected body who has, my understanding, who often with these projects has much more information than we are privy to. So that's just another thing I'd like to say. I mean, sometimes I feel, because I not track it closely, but I still do track city council, and with some of these projects, sometimes there's a whole lot of information that we've never seen. Right. And sometimes I would have changed my vote, or, not that it, again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It goes to them. They're the elected officials. But, had I known more about the scope of the project. But again, I think it's important that everybody understands that we can make recommendations, and again, I would like to see those have more teeth, but at the end of the day, they go to the city council and our elected officials, and they're the ones who, and it's, and it's their due diligence as well, too. I see us in a lot of ways, I hope at least, that we are helpful to them, so that this process allows us to raise questions and raise things that again, then they've got some time, they can look into it a little bit more or whatever. So that's one of the things I see as our role.
Yeah. Other thoughts on goals? And my only thoughts were very similar, but one of the things I view us as a non-political objective perspective to these projects, that we don't get wrapped into some of the things that maybe elected officials get wrapped into, and so we can just look at it from a very objective perspective, and I think that is some of the value that we bring. And I have had a few council members call me and actually thank us for what we do, even though it doesn't have, I think you're right, I don't know if it has the teeth, but if we are against or for something, it does bring it to light and maybe puts a little bit more emphasis or pressure on the situation for them to do what is right in their eyes. So.
I would just add, too, that I think it's really important that we diversify this council, this commission, and we get, people of color on this commission.
Sure, I agree. I'll let the mayor talk in a minute, but I'm going to guess that that's going to be one of his goals
I know,
as
and
well.
I know it's been a goal since the beginning, but it's just, and it's, I think, and we need it in a significant way, not just one person.
And I think is a full commission 9? Is that?
Yes, currently it's 9.
Okay, and so we've got 3 to appoint here. And I think you're right, Sheila. That's a very good point.
So even if we have, I don't know if it's an actual agreement or whatever, but if we're going to bring on representatives from other taxing bodies, I think we should ask them to make the recommendations that it's, and all those taxing bodies have, high level, from all level, I should say, people that work in their entities that would be good representatives for people of color.
Okay, any other thoughts before I let the mayor tell us what his goals are for the commission? Okay, Mayor, are we on track?
Yeah, very much so. A couple items, and it's no knock on anything else, but it doesn't matter what department. So with OPED, having a new face really helps shine the light on deficiencies. And one thing is with government, just give you government 101, sometimes information's power. So people in government tend to hold on to the information. And so what we're going to do is formalize the process, so it doesn't matter if Robbie's here or not here, it goes like a fine oil machine that Commissioner Hamilton spoke about. So we are going to formalize processes to a greater degree in written form, of course. And then the reporting back is pretty important with regards to, so you can see what's happening. And I think, in a way, we haven't tooted our own horn enough. Sometimes you just keep moving things, keep going to the next project, but it is important to reflect back on the progress that's been made, or if there hasn't been progress, why not, and answer those questions. With regards to the timing of items, changing the meeting would be extremely helpful. So if we set it in January, I think Wednesday or after City Council meets on Tuesday. I think from the start of this commission, they've always met on Tuesday just so we could meet the timeline of City Council. But in order for you to get more time and then give more time for prep, I think having it on Wednesday or Thursday might be a better day, be after the council, to take that into consideration. The last item I will, with today's projects, the Taylor House, and what's important, what's happened, the Taylor House has been needing fixing for a long time. And so it's the prioritization of a project. So, and the timing of this, that's why we brought it forward, and we appreciate the commission's support, because it is crucial. We've wanted to winterize that forever. Never could figure out a way to do it, but now we've been able to figure that out internally, and so we appreciate the commission's support for that important project. But as far as goals go, we are going through plans right now for Enos Park and other TIFs as we expand the SHA. So we will be looking at housing development, especially whole block development. But I think what's crucial is that type of analyzation that you bring to the table from your different backgrounds on the plans that are in place, because we have plans that are in place, some are outdated, but really focusing on a direction, providing a direction. So don't be afraid to ask questions or ask for information or anything, because that will still steer the direction we go. And as far as the confirmation by City Council, when you get a unanimous vote from a project that comes from here, that should be your affirmation that you did your work, because otherwise I've seen it where, that are not aware, or they don't have that comfort level. So even though they may not say it, when you get a unanimous vote of support or near unanimous vote of support, that really goes to the work that you're doing.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we'll go to old business, open TIF projects update.
Yes, just wanted to provide, that transparency on the current open TIF projects we have. We do have a guest who does have an open TIF project, whom I'll introduce in just a moment, relating to the 3 open facade agreements that we do have in the downtown central area TIF. So I would like Chris Nickel at this time, to come up. He does own all 3 properties, which I'm referencing are the facade agreements, so he can provide us a direct update as to where we are with those facade easements.
Sure, thanks. Two of them I'll discuss first, and then the third one is a little more complicated. But the 3 properties are 415 East Adams, which currently on the first floor is the Elf Shelf bookstore and the Phoenix Center. Those are my 2 tenants on the first floor. So we have a TIF for the facade on that building, that one, and 215 South 5th, which is Springfield Vintage, Linda Renahan, and most recently now the Jerk Shop moved down the block, and my new tenant there is Beazel Buns. She's a bakery. I don't know if anyone has seen any of her stuff around, but she's made a recent splash because she advertises as a satanic bakery.
Is that at the 215 South 5th, or is that? Right.
Well, it's 213 and 215, so 213. The bakery is 213. It's a pretty good little marketing deal she's got going, and it garners a lot of social media attention for those who may think that she's serious about that. But anyway, so those 2 facade easements will be, the posts for those will be coming out in the Illinois Times. I just got an email from them yesterday that they won't be in this Thursday, but they'll be in next Thursday. So as you know, the process then, I'll receive bids off of that public post, making sure that all the contractors that bid are up to snuff for the TIF requirements for prevailing wage and all that. So those 2, I had hoped in getting them to, and I have copies of the facade plans. If I didn't know if anyone would care to see them or not, but I brought them along. The architectural drawings for the 2 facade work. I wanted to post these 2 at the same time in the hopes that I will get one contractor, or maybe all the contractors that bid will bid on both. And because I'm a small operation, it allows me a lot of, there's some economy of scale, if you will, if I don't have to deal with 2 companies on such a thing. So, and it's fairly generic when it comes to facade renovation: window placements, replacements, tuck pointing, cleaning and recaulking, replacing a couple of entry doors. Pretty basic, as I'm sure you know, it typically is with facade easement work.
I'm hoping that at the one that's the Phoenix Center and the Elf Shelf, that is to replace that awning.
Yes, that is included. It is definitely included, yep.
Okay, good.
The current plan is for a non-retractable metal awning. However, I also own the Cafe Moxo building right next door, and Mark Fornash, the owner there, and I have been talking because he would really like to have some sort of gazebo-style seating out over his sidewalk. I'm sure you're aware of the parklet construction that has been popping up around, and of course, Mark would have had an option for that like everyone else. He decided not to go that route because in that block, he doesn't want to sacrifice parking. It's got the Kidseum and Buzz Bomb across the street, and there's a handicap and a crosswalk, and it's just not a great place for a parklet. So the idea was to try to convince the city that the parklet funds could also be used for overhangs over the existing city sidewalk to provide all-weather seating. My emails to the city haven't gotten me an answer on that yet, so I don't know if that'll happen. The only reason I bring it up is because there was the concept that because I own both buildings, we could extend one construction job, and that whole fairly sizable section of that block would have a nice covered walkway. And you know me, I'd want to put solar panels on it or something too to sort of doll it all up. But we don't know if any of that's going to happen. But yes, that awning will be.
The awning will be
in
replaced either way, yeah. I was at
scenario.
the ribbon cutting for the Out on Adams, and
right.
I
for
just
the
kept
Phoenix,
looking at that awning. Well, that's got to go.
They offered to pay to replace it if it was a rainbow awning, but because it extends the entire width of the building, we don't think that's going to work.
For the
and we're
elf
just going to go with
shelf, too.
something solid there.
Yeah.
So my other project that's outstanding, that's probably most of you have seen because of the trouble we're having with it, is the corner of 7th and Adams. So the other 2 corners are Giant Hotel, and Marijuana Dispensary. And then it was most recently Jade's Far East Emporium a few years ago. I purchased that building from the Stern family. So the trouble we've been having, trouble in quotes, is with the Historic Preservation Agency. This building qualifies for the federal Historic Preservation tax credit. So I had to remove some of the old facade structure. There's this green, there's still some of it on there, some green paneling down 7th Street. The architect wasn't sure what was behind it. We didn't know what we were dealing with. So we got up there and we stripped all that off. When I stripped it off, I took a bunch of pictures, right? Sent it to my architect, and I sent it to IHPA. It's what you do, right? Well, I found some old steel facade posts, structures that are still there behind the post. The only reason for sending it was for the architect to tell me what material to cover it all back up with, right? What we can attach it to and all that. Well, then now IHPA says I can't cover it back up now that I've uncovered it. Oh. So it's a very frustrating situation because, if I hadn't even told them I'd done it, we already would be past that, but I shouldn't have sent them the pictures. But maybe that's not true. But anyway, so we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. My architect is negotiating with the IHPA on how we can do that. It's the section of the building right next to Celtic Mist. I mean, I'm of course all in, as you probably have guessed, on redoing these buildings in as much historical fashion as possible. But of course, at the end of the day, I don't swing a big financial hammer. So sometimes these kind of things can, there's not a lot of profit in these projects, right? So you throw in an extra $100,000 worth of storefront renovation, all of a sudden the project doesn't work anymore. So we're trying to figure out that last 40 feet of the building down there, so the architect can redesign the whole facade, because the IHP also says it has to be contiguous in visual appearance with the, anyway. So that one is in a little bit of a holding pattern. Hopefully we'll be able to get out of that holding pattern soon and start getting bids on the renovation to the facade of that. But
They won't let you cover it because it's part of the historical part of the building or something, or?
Right, because those are original storefront.
Okay.
It's very common when you walk around downtown. They're about this wide, steel cast iron with grooves in them with a little floret usually at the top.
Yep.
The problem is we didn't know they were there, so we were just. But now that they know they're there, they say, yeah, right. So, but anyway, we'll be able to find our way through that. At the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, we can just, ditch the historic preservation tax credit. But again, that completely flips the financial viability of the entire project. So, anyway, surprise, surprise, right? That's what happens on some of these old buildings. So, so those are the three. Two of them, optimistic, should be nice. Everyone will be happy with those, I'm sure. And this one, I'm happy to come back in a couple months, or I can just send you an email when there's been some sort of finalization with IHPA on how to handle that situation. Actually, I'll be back in this room next week because they've given me violation notices because that's not finished. So I have to come and explain the same things to them as to why that facade's still partially exposed.
Appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
remember voting on this.
Yeah. You're actually the last developer that I would have expected or wanted to come in and give us an update. There's a couple others that I was, I'm pretty confident that you're doing great work. And
I appreciate that. And I will use the same excuse a lot of people use, and that's COVID. Admittedly, 6 or 8 months ago, I wasn't in any hurry to try to get started on these because material costs have just gone crazy. Trying to get a contractor even that had time to come give you a bid. So slow walking, these were also partially intentional. It's city money and my money, right? So I figure if I could push them off just a little bit at a time, prices are starting to come back down to reality, and I can get this stuff done at more reasonable rates, materials and time, getting people involved.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no. Do you want me to leave these with you?
Yeah, that'd be great, Chris. Yeah.
Ravi, do we know if, I guess the project that I'm most, concerned about is that Springfield Commons project, and the mayor gave us an update last time. I don't know where that is with city council. Sometimes they require that, they give reports or anything like that. Is there anything like that with that project for the council?
Not that I'm aware of, as far as city council pressing them for updates, or reminders. I have attempted to reach out to the developers again. I have not gotten a response back yet. The last correspondence that I sent out was on October 11th, and have not responded. They have not responded back to my queries about providing a status update, perhaps presenting to the Economic Community Development Commission, as well as where they are most relevantly with their financing for the project.
Sure,
so
exactly.
that's kind of our concern. So in our budgeting and allocations for TIF funding, that project is largely it's encumbered. But again, I do not anticipate that at this current time, they have the financial secured, to move forward in any way. That's kind of the response that no response has indicated that response to me. So,
I just think that's a major concern. We've had that; those buildings are in. We've been going through this project now for I don't know how long, and clearly, if they're not going to get their financing,
right.
At some point, there has to be some discussion about what happens next, or is there some other alternatives or whatever, and. I don't know if it's appropriate, but Mark, if we could, as an entity, invite them to come and give an update, I would certainly appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we could work in that fashion. As the liaison for the city, I've certainly made an attempt. I know the mayor has, also made attempts to reach out to provide some status updates, but communication largely has not been meaningful.
Well, that's even more concerning.
Yeah, that's not good.
Right.
Yeah, so that's just wanted to update the commission on that project. The other project that is outstanding is the St. Nick Apartments, the elevator project. So I did have a correspondence with Kit King also on October 11th, and did state that the current status is they are, quote, waiting on one last piece to complete the elevator project, and then the project will close and inspections can be had, end quote. So they are awaiting a delivery of this one customized elevator piece that's crucial to the completion of that project. So I will be, also reaching out to them. I try to reach out to them, all the open projects, at least every 2 weeks, to get some updates on where we are at with those outstanding projects. So I'll be reaching out to them again. The other, just wanted to update, is the Lumber Lane. It's not really an open project, but wanted to just update the commission that the amount reimbursed, the last reimbursement we did was on April 21st, 2021, in the amount of $25,239.23, and the balance that's currently remaining is $1,456,760.77. So those payments are processed annually as a portion of the sales tax. So we'll probably have another payment again in mid to late April again. So
Is that project on track in terms
yes,
of the?
yes, okay. Yes. That project is currently on track. As far as Enos Park is concerned, we just have the one open homeowner agreement, which we are working to complete. It's been submitted for bids. It's kind of the last home rehabilitation project that was pending out of Enos Park. The only other quote-unquote open project is the YMCA reimbursement, which is for $900,000. That is what is remaining in the YMCA. And of course, did provide the update, as everybody knows, that TIF has now been extended. So we hope to, as soon as possible, work with Michelle and get some more home rehabilitation projects going, because it's a great program, as well as our veterans assistance. The Floyd's rooftop project, just wanted to provide a small update that we hope to have that ordinance in place for tonight's city council meeting. So that will hopefully be presented tonight. And they are requesting the $520,000 of TIF funds, which they did have a presentation last week on, so no other updates right now for the commission, but just wanted to kind of briefly provide an overview on the outstanding open projects, that we currently have, as well as I will certainly work diligently to invite some of the developers, to give personal direct opinion about where their projects are, currently, as well as any other updates I may receive.
Is it Washington Street? What's with that parking garage? Where is that project at? I mean, I don't even know if that's a TIF or CDB. I mean, the demolition of that parking ramp.
Yeah, I am not aware exactly of where we're at with that, Commissioner, but I can certainly provide an update for next meeting on that.
Because that's been around a long time, too.
Yeah, the mayor did just walk out right now, but I can certainly work to find an update and alert the commission on where we're at with that.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I think, Sheila, I agree with you on that. That's one where I don't know what the process is, but if it's not moving forward and that's allocated money, let's allocate it somewhere else.
Yeah,
right.
Something's got to be done with that, though, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for those updates.
That's all I had.
Just one other little mini update. It was just something I saw the other day, that Boyd's New Generation on South Grand. I don't know if you know that Boyd's restaurant. Yeah. We approved TIF dollars, a year and a half, 2 years ago for it. And next time you drive by it, it looks great. It was a gravel parking lot, and didn't look great, and I was there the other day, and I thought it looked fantastic. So it was a good use of our TIF dollars there.
Absolutely.
And I think the business is doing well.
And that is really an anchor restaurant in East Springfield.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it does look really nice.
Okay. Anything else on project updates?
No, I think that's all I have.
Okay. Packet guidelines for projects.
Yeah, so I think this goes back to just some of what the other commissioners had mentioned about the timeliness of receiving documents, and the consistent format of receiving those documents. So in the packet, that you received behind the agenda, I did enclose the checklist that we will be using for a TIF-funded project as well as a CDBG funded project. So that will be the consistent format moving forward. If the commission approves of that, that all projects will be vetted in this capacity with a checklist and ensuring exactly where we are at with the required documents. So I just wanted to provide that for reference as we discuss, potential policy updates as far as how projects will be vetted, deadlines, et cetera. So I wanted to be transparent with that.
And if you wouldn't mind, since we approved 2 things today, subject to review of your office, when you're done with that review, if you wouldn't mind sending out the results of that review
Absolutely,
to us,
Mark.
that would be
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely, Commissioner. So I work to have it synthesized for all of you in the checklist format. So when you receive it, the supplemental documentation will also be added to that checklist. So when you just look at the checklist, you can briefly glance and see exactly where we are at with the project, what check marks are missing, as well as what check marks we have received in the documentation. So that is certainly my goal. And again, apologies for not being prepared for these 2 projects this meeting, but certainly for our December meeting.
Okay. Anything else on packet guidelines for projects or?
Anything else?
Okay. Let's.
If I
yeah,
can
go
interject
ahead.
real quick. I think I'm gonna piggyback on Sandy's project tracking. I think it wouldn't hurt to have first review or second review on there, and we put a date on it.
Yeah.
We need a first review by X, 30 days, 60 days, whatever we want to do. I just think that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
To get these updates today from Ravia is great, but when was the last time you heard about some of those?
Right, and that's just it. You mentioned something. I'm like, I don't even remember that one.
Right.
I'm like, you have to reiterate what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Ravi and I talked again very briefly about maybe the concept of like an Excel spreadsheet that has
That's
every
what I was
project,
thinking, too.
and then a
Yeah.
few just.
It's not like we have to have a discussion about this at every single meeting, because that could be lengthy, but at least, like you said, bullet points, this is where they're at, and then you email it to us would be
Absolutely.
wonderful.
That's something relative. It's also important for my office as well for organization, and tracking. So you guys will receive the feedback both on the front end as well as on the back end. Hey, has this project received an ordinance number? When was it up for city council? Has it gone through first review? So I think it's important for everybody to kind of get the holistic, comprehensive picture, so that's definitely my goal, so hope to have more substance behind that promise at our next meeting.
Great.
I'm thinking there's 2, the commercial kitchen I know was presented to us, and I forget the one there was going to be a crowdfunding.
Yeah, the public market.
Yeah,
right.
the
Yes.
public market,
Yeah.
I mean.
Again, they're in kind of the same boat that Springfield Commons is in regards to securing financing. I think the mayor provided an update at our last meeting in regards to that. They were using an alternative funding source, crowdfunding to secure that, but we have not received any financial statements, or financial commitments, or, in regards to what the precise gap financing would be, and how we would expend citizen dollars to, mitigate that.
It wouldn't, this is a little bit beyond this commission, but I hope that there are some sort of things in those agreements that if you don't do this, these funds are no longer available to you.
Right.
And it sounds like we have a few that haven't done this.
Yeah, there should be a timeline.
Right, yeah. And we
But
need
I
to
was
take
going to
action.
say to Mark that, I also think, based on my comments about putting some teeth into this entity, having these developers come back with updates, I think would would help that, because council can't necessarily, they've got lots of stuff to do. They can't necessarily get updates on every single thing all the time, but if we did it every 3 months or, whatever, that might help us be, vetting these even beyond the initial.
So that was my goal. I did send invitations to all the open projects, that we discussed, but as you can see, we only had one
only Chris
one developer participation,
Yeah,
so that was my original
I'm worried about
project
him
was,
the least, I think.
yeah, that was my original project, was to have all of the open projects that we have right now currently have a representative for each one of those projects personally give an update as to exactly where we are at, as well as field questions from the commission, to knowing, where are we at? Do we need to reevaluate the scope of this project? Are we moving forward? So that is my goal, and I will again do my diligence to communicate, the urgency of having those developers directly come in, to provide updates. So
Maybe not give them an option, make it a mandatory thing
yeah,
that they have to do.
yeah,
Part
right.
of the checklist.
And that's what Tom, I think,
Yeah.
was saying, right? I mean, I agree with that, especially if they're just ignoring it.
Right.
Then
Right.
it should be from the very beginning, an upfront thing that says, the commission may periodically
Yeah,
ask you to
subject to
come in
review.
front, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And, you're required to do that, or
Sure.
whatever.
Absolutely. We can make it a compliance requirement, for projects.
That'd be great.
Okay, anything else on
I
that?
don't think so.
Okay, public comments, anyone? Did we lose our public?
Come on, Kayla.
Okay, well, seeing nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.